students, welcome back to the session. And in this session, I said we are going to look at outsourcing. I believe this is not a new topic to all of us who have ever heard about outsourcing, and it's not something we are familiar with. So to move on quickly on it, we shall define it as the management strategy that transfer core functions to external specialist provider. There are different definitions. If you do your research, you'll find different definitions. But in simple words, outsourcing is whereby an activity that was internally done by an organization or that could be done by an organization, but the organization decides to shift the responsibility of doing that to a third party, for somebody to do that activity. That's what we call by outsourcing. Transferring a core function to an external specialist who can provide it. We shall look at the reasons as to why this is done. When we go direct to that, why it's used, or why do we have to shift these activities to somebody else to do it? It could be a company, it could be a person, a consultant who will do this activity. There are series. It could be security, provision of security, it could be provision of ICT services, it could be provision of electric services, plumbing, but the company decides that let's another company provide those activities and it is paid for it. So why is this decision there, or why do a company decides to do that? Number one, to improve efficiency, to ensure that the little resources available can produce what is expected. So it is that activity is specifically provided to someone or to a provider who is more experienced in that field, so that the company can achieve its objectives. Secondly, could be reduction of costs. The company could be aiming at reducing costs in a way that if a company is going to produce that or is going to provide that service for itself, it will have to invest on capital. If it's ICT, we need to acquire softwares, we need to acquire computers. So we just give it out to another company which already have this equipment or this capital needed equipment, then it's provided at a lesser cost. Then secondly, to enhance flexibility, we give out that service to be provided by another service provider so that we are flexible at the services we can give, so that we are given gap to provide what we can give. Then we are more flexible, we can make decisions quickly as another company provides the other services. Then focus on core competence. Every company organization has what it can provide best. So instead of the organization concentrating on providing a service which can be outsourced, it will give it out so that it can concentrate on providing what exactly it can do best, instead of being interrupted by other things, providing yourself security, providing yourself catering, providing yourself other ICT services. You better give it out for another company to give it. That's why companies decide to outsource. Obviously, it comes with benefits. Number one benefit, we have what we call economies of scale, shared production reduced, cost, as we mentioned before. When another organization is not producing this for us, or it is not providing the service for us, we can produce efficiently at the lowest cost and more profit is maximized. So we say risk pool. Of course, those activities could be risky, so that risk is transferred to the third party or to the service provider who will be providing that, so that the risk is shared, or the risk is transferred together with the activity to the service provider. Also, we have capital investment reduction. As I mentioned before, outsourcing will reduce the amount of capital to be invested. Investment of the capital will be transferred to the service provider, who will come in as an outsourced provider. Focus on core competence. I also mentioned on this. Also, it's another benefit to help the company or the organization to concentrate on what it can do best. Then other activities are given out to be provided by other providers. Then the company can provide at what it can provide best so that it can improve its customer production. We have, for example, we have here Nick focusing on branding, not production. So instead of Nick gives out production to another company, then for them they just do the branding. That means production is done by another company, then for them they do branding. Then the company keeps on making profits. Increased flexibility, fast adoption, technology access, quicker production development, all this comes together as a benefit of outsourcing. You give out so that you can be faster on what you can produce. Other benefits: freeze management time, reduce staff costs. I already mentioned some of these, the cost and the problems, you reduce them. Cost uncertainty and consistent services also is another part. The uncertainties that come with the cost. Tomorrow you pay for this, next tomorrow you pay for this. So these costs or these uncertainties are transferred to the third party, or if it's even a constant cost, also it is transferred to the third party. What are the risks of outsourcing? In this case, we shall have a study case from one of the insurance companies, IBM. This insurance company had a system whereby they were the ones storing the data for their clients. So in this case, they were having challenges. They hire a specialist who has to be paid expensively. The system has to be, it was a mainframe computer, so all this, there are costs involved in managing the system for the data or maintaining the data system. So what they did, they had to outsource to another company so that the other company will be able to manage their data. And in that case, or in this case, we shall see that when they did that, there was short-term gain, which is one of the risks of outsourcing. Because in other words, you reap market entry in the short term. You can benefit, but because you are already having someone who's controlling your data, someone who is already knowing how you operate, so it's easy for this company or the third party to take over or to take your market share. So that is one of the risks. It has a short-term gain. In the long term, also it has losses that comes in the long term. In the short term, of course, I've mentioned. Then in the long term, your competition or your market share can drop. If customers discover that a certain service provider is not providing you with a certain service, and maybe there is a problem with your service provider, it can also affect you in the long run. So it also comes with those risks. The main risks could include loss of competition knowledge. I mentioned that before. Your knowledge pertaining that specific production or that specific activity, you gave it out to the third party. So you don't have total control of that knowledge. So it's very easy to lose your competition or your competitors, to lose to your competitors. And secondly, it's very easy to lose knowledge because someone else is controlling your that activity and has access to how the company is operating. Conflicts in objectives with suppliers. Suppliers may need something specifically from the company, but the third party who is helping in that production could not be interested in providing that service the way the company wants. So that will cause conflicts on the side of what suppliers want. Other risks could involve or could include over-dependency. The company will have to depend on the service provider. You have no option. If their system goes down, the third party system goes down, the company has nothing to do. Just has to hold on, or the organization has to wait until their system works, then the operation starts. So it creates over-dependency, or you have to just depend on them. Whatever decision the third party makes, that is what you go with. There's nothing to do about that. Then lack of control or training. Sometimes some of these companies, you cannot control how they train their staff. They just decide to do what they want with their staff. Poor documentation. Their documentation, you may have less control as a risk. on how they document, and if it is poor, that means the company itself also have high risks of losing its documents. Diversifying interests. The company that is outsourced may decide to provide its services the way it wants, not according to the interests of the company. So it will cause conflict and diversification of the interests. How the company has to operate on all that will create a lot of confusion. Culture mismatch. Every company or organization has a culture, how it operates, how staff has to behave, how they have to talk, how they dress. So when an outsourced company comes in, or another third party comes in to provide the service that the company was supposed to provide, trust me, in that case, there will be mismatch of culture. They will come with their own culture, how they talk. Let's give an example of outsourcing a Chinese company. Imagine how in South Sudan, how that confusion can come into the company. So these are some of the risks that come together with outsourcing a company. Strategies are there, or how to go about. Decisions have to be made, and these decisions are made at a strategic level. As I said before, in an organization, we have 3 levels of management. The top, which is the strategic management, and these decisions, they are always decided by them on either to make or buy. And this is more related to the outsourcing part. Either the company makes it for itself, or it buys from someone to provide it. So these decisions are whether to produce internally or buy externally, as I just mentioned. Decision factors could be, you consider the cost. If we buy ourselves, or if we do ourselves, what is the cost? And if we buy from out, what's the cost? So the decision is weighed, and if buying out is cheaper, then we shall need to buy from outside so that the company can make profit. Then quality also depends. The outsourced company, what quality is their product? That one also is a question to be asked during the decision making. The capacity, what is the capacity of the company to be outsourced? The risks that are involved with bringing in another company or buying from a third party. Then controlling. Shall we have control over what we want, or they will have control over what we want? It's a decision to be thought through so that that decision can be made. Types of making or buying decisions, we have the strategic. As I said before, that we have the 3 here. I will maybe illustrate something. I will illustrate something slightly for us. And I will divide it to 3. I'm drawing the management levels. On top here, we shall have the strategic. In the middle, we have the tactical. And down, we have the operation. So this is how it flows. Of course, when you see the structure I've drawn up, means there's less staff. And the middle means the management departments. That could be the management, human resource management, procurement, and all that. Then down is the production, the day-to-day, those who execute the day-to-day activities. So when we talk of the decision to buy or make, it can be made on top here. So when it is made on top here, that is what we call the top management decision-making level. Then it is also for the long-term impact. They look at the decision at this level, we look at the impact at a long-term level. When we come to the tactical, on making the decision to make or buy, of course, that is the middle level, which I've said, and their decisions are always temporary, or they are on temporary issues. Then lastly, we shall have the last level, which is always on the design. They will always make the decision either to design it within the company or someone else to design, or either to source specific parts of the product, or totally the whole part is made within the organization. So those are the 3 levels whereby make or buy decisions are made in the process of outsourcing. So let's look at the reasons. We have so much looked at that. it's more like a repetition. Dependency on capability. Firms have skills but lack lack resources or space, transport materials. So that could be one of the reasons why a company will decide to outsource. Depends on also the knowledge, how much knowledge that the company has to make. That is what we call the technical know-how or expertise. How much knowledge does the company has to make? If the knowledge is not there and it needs an expert, then an outsource decision is made. Factors to consider to make or buy: the nature of the product. It could be bulky or perishable, and what techniques are needed to produce these products. Then the decision is made. Of course, if it's something a company can manage, then the company will make it themselves. Technological awareness, that is also another point. The knowledge about the technology in the production. Let me go quick with this now. Market and economic conditions. Also, that is one. If the company is clear about the market of the product, the economic conditions, it will also make either buy. If it is favoring them, they make. If it is not, they buy. Financial structure, maybe how much money is needed for the investment. Relationship duration with suppliers. Internal capacity, capability, and personality. Is the company having that capability? Cost benefit analysis and procedures. What are the benefits that are included in the production? So the analysis will determine whether make or we buy. Reason to in-house, or in other words, reason to make. When we have idle space, so idle capacity that is not being used, we make. When we need to reduce lead time, of course, lead time is the time between ordering and delivering or receiving. So if we need to reduce, we see that the lead time is long. When we order from out, we just make it. Maintain confidentiality. We have company has information that is not supposed to go out. Scrap utilization. Some scraps are there and they are not being used. The company can decide to use that. Better cost predictability. We can predict the cost as a company. The company will make. Resource control. If we need to control our resources ourselves, that's an outsider. The company will also make. Eliminate suppliers. Risk also the company will make. Let's look at the reason to buy. Those are reasons to outsource. This is more repetition. Small quantity needed. Something we can manage. We can buy it if it is something small. Some of these reasons can also be a reason to make, depending on the factors involved. Avoid capital or labor intensive. We don't want to invest in capital. We decide to buy. Access vendor expertise. We need someone who has knowledge. We buy. Reduce inventory and financial risks. The company will buy. Leverage specialized machineries. Maybe the machinery is needed in the production. The company does not have access to them or does not have capability to own them. The company will buy. Improve quality controls. The company will buy. Obviously, in sourcing, we also have partnership, because for the sourcing to go smoothly, there must be a partnership, and we define that as a long-term cooperative buyer-supplier relationship for mutual benefits. Of course, that is bounding relationship that is made on a strategic level of decision-making, that is bounding this buyer and the supplier in a long-term period and for mutual benefits, each of them to benefit, in other words. Benefits could be shared goods, shared goals, earlier supplier involvement, because if you have a relationship with your supplier, you can involve them at any level before production. The supplier is there at any level, you can involve them. Total quality focus, you can also enjoy that as one of the benefits. There is output, which is quality. Reduce suppliers base, not having too much big base or big market, a number of suppliers. In other words, you have few, then you can easily operate or you can easily work clearly with them than having a number of suppliers, which has to involve long-term decision making. You have to choose, you have to evaluate and all that. If you have few, it's easy to make decisions. So it's a benefit of partnering during sourcing. Enhance trust and performance. That is one. That is also another reason. Challenges in partnership sourcing. There are challenges. There is difficulty in ending the partnership. It's always difficult to end the partnership because there are too many agreements that has been entered into. Imbalanced power dynamics. Who takes what? Who is in charge of what and all that? It's always a challenge. Confidentiality risks. Information has to be shared to everyone. So there is no way information can be kept confidential. Over-dependency also is another reason. What has to depend? The company or the producing company has to depend on the supplier. Anything happens on the supply side, definitely the production will be affected. Requires ongoing review and mutual commitment. So we have reached the start of this, and from here now, we shall stop there and we shall look at the next topic in the next session. Thank you so much.